Thank you, Chris.
Hey everybody, this is Erwan Barati. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Sunday, October 18th. This is our second virtual fundraiser for Beyond Freedom. Beyond Freedom was founded by Jennelle Gordon, and it focuses on bringing awareness, aid, and an end to human sex trafficking. The organization first formed in the spring of 2017 at Orange Coast Community College as a club. In 2018, the club became the nonprofit organization that it is today. This organization differs from other human sex trafficking organizations in that it was created by a survivor for victims who then became survivors themselves. Beyond Freedom is dedicated to the education of the community, empowering survivors with holistic healing modalities, and the enlightenment of survivors through education via partnering with the community to assist in the process of transforming victims of sex trafficking into thriving citizens of the world. We are interviewing today Amber Lee, Kayla Bright, and Jennelle Gordon. Welcome all.
Thank you for having us.
So much for the
So I know Kayla, I know Jennelle. Amber, nice to meet you for the first time. So I know we just spoke about this. We want to talk about things that you folks are doing right now. But for those listening who are new to you, who haven't met any of you, maybe we can just briefly discuss who you are and what you're up to. So let's start with Amber, since we have you on the screen.
Okay, well, currently live in Salt Lake City and do the business development for a local primary mental health facility.
Awesome.
Amazing. Shout out to Salt Lake City. Love the city. Let's go ahead and do Kayla next.
Yeah, so I'm Kayla. Just a little backstory. I got married very young, a lot of childhood trauma. I was recruited into trafficking, was trafficked for 6 years. I ran away from my trafficker. And in that, it's been 2 years since I physically ran away from him on foot. And so since then, I've just been literally every day fighting for my healing on every level. And so that's why this one was super important for me to be here, because I wanted to talk about what people don't see. Like, they think you just make it out and that's it. I also work in treatment. I'm almost 26 weeks pregnant. I have a little diaper cake back there. That's my background. So there's a lot that comes with that as well, being a survivor, being pregnant, and having to those things. So I'm just super stoked to be here and share a little bit about like the struggles and how important it is for survivors with organizations like Jennelle's.
Hey folks, can you hear me? I think I lost you.
That is what people need to give for, is for that purpose, is that we need healing, we need help, we need a community of people that are going to surround the survivors and the foundations that matter. So that's my little spiel, and I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to see you again, Kayla. So happy to see you.
You look amazing, glowing,
Thank
and just like still doing everything, being pregnant, coming on live calls at night, and just I'm so excited for what you're doing. Yeah, I don't know so much about Amber yet, and still learning, and excited to get to know you. But Kayla's done tremendous things with she's been on the Dr. Oz show and worked, was rescued by Operation Underground, and just done a lot of amazing things to mentor other survivors, even while she was still going through her own trauma and stuff. So, and that's, and I'll just share now. Is that cool now, Armand? Yeah. Okay. So that's, what this is about. And Kayla reminds me a lot of myself. We have very similar, but very different stories, as do all survivors. Right. So suffered a lot of sexual trauma from infancy, unfortunately, all the way through my up to my 30s. So a lifetime of sexual and physical trauma, and got very quickly put into ownership of the state. So I was a warden of the state until I was 24, went through the foster systems, suffered physical and sexual abuse as a child, which we see a lot in human trafficking victims, right? And then got put into the Army, got discharged by the Army. And one day before I would actually get benefits, and I didn't know any wiser, I just signed away. And so from there, that's when I got picked up on my first PEM. And from there, went through a series of PEMs until I landed in Vegas with the most dangerous one that nearly took my life multiple times. Suffered so many concussions. I was told if I had another one, I would die. Developed a mild traumatic brain injury. That's been a battle for me to focus. I can't write like, fluidly. I had to speak my book. I did write my book in a day, but I did it through Audible, and it took a year to get it published. So that was fun for my editor. And just from there was like, okay, I have to do something because this isn't right. And when I got out of the life, like Kayla, I faked my own death, escaped, fled to an island in Thailand where I studied an ancient practice of yoga called Tantra for a year, got back into my body and thought, wow, I have to do something to help other women who've experienced trauma. I didn't know I'd been trafficked at the time. And for many survivors, we don't know, right? And so I came out at a college campus in Costa Mesa, Orange Coast College. So I was doing a speech on human trafficking for my public speaking course. I started researching all these women, and I thought, oh my gosh, like this is me. These women I'm researching are me. Came out to my professor, public speaking teacher for almost 60 years. She said, I've never heard anyone speak like with your natural ability. You're definitely gonna be my first student to make it to TED. And a year, my TED director and coach is actually in the back. I met her, Alicia DeHeer, and we curated 3 talks to really cover this case because the TED organization doesn't have a genre for human trafficking. And so we're hoping with my talk to pave the other ways to create that so other women can have that voice too, to really make an impact. But the club started as just a way to just help other women and bring awareness. And as I started speaking at college campuses on speech and debate, all these other women would come forward and kind of say me too. And from there, I said, well, I got to have more impact. I want to make this go so that no one's going to take me serious unless I can legitimize myself, right? And so that's when I attracted the attention of Tony Robbins. And he said, I want to help you, help more women, but first I want to help you. Sent me to every single one of his events in a span of a year and a half. I went to every Date with Destiny, UPW, Business Mastery, did them all, and then started bringing survivors to those events to get them to experience that same liberation and freedom. And now today we have Beyond Freedom, a virtual program that we're in the process of still curating, but we have basically healers and coaches around the world that work with survivors to do different types of holistic healing methods for survivors. Because as Kayla said, we are the 1% of victims that actually get out alive and that go from surviving to thriving. So that's a little bit about what Beyond Freedom's doing. And yeah.
Love it. And we have this, Jennelle and I have this running gag where every time I hear from her, I learn something new from her. I know her for 2 years, but every time I talk to her, I learn something new from her. I'm like, oh, who did you meet? How do you know them? She like knows everybody. But on that same note, Jennelle brought something up, empowering and thriving and all that. And I want today to be about that, to be about empowering, because this is our second event with Beyond Freedom. And the first time was a lot of, stories about being trafficked. But today I would love to talk about you overcoming that and you escaping and empowering yourself and how you're empowering other women and other survivors of trafficking. So I'd love to, just go to each one of you and talk about, that, I don't say that moment, but that moment of rising above and to get to where you are now. You're thriving in businesses, you're thriving in nonprofits. So let's talk about things that empower you.
I love it. Do you want to start with Amber?
We can go let's go with Amber first.
Sure. Go, Amber.
Well, this has been a long and hard journey for me. I was rescued by law enforcement in 2016, and I've been stumbling through the like normal world pretty much ever since then. But what I know is that I have an endless amount of energy to find these women, find these children, and provide support, resources, even rescue options. I've decided to go back to school for ethical hacking and programming. My dream job is to hack for an apprehension team, and I'm really, really close to obtaining those goals. Locally, I'm involved with a nonprofit called Soap to Hope. One of our viewers, her name is January Riggin, is the founder. And this is a street level outreach for really anyone being trafficked in the downtown area by providing hope kits, resources, trust and support. These women have been told over and over and over that they can be helped, they can be rescued, they can be all of these things. And then their stories are resold and retold and over and over and over. They're just, and then they never get the help that they need. I also really, really want to collaborate and make an aftercare center specifically for women that have been rescued from trafficking. You can't take women like us and throw us in a room, even with primary mental health facilities or addiction, substance use disorder facilities, and allow us this space to talk about what happened to us and talk about how we want to talk about it. So it's become really kind of a vulgar situation for most people and makes the majority of the population very uncomfortable to talk about. So we get shut down again and again and again. But if there was something specifically for women who've survived sex trafficking, a place where they can go and heal and talk and actually be themselves, we could meet them where they're at in that moment and allow them the years that it's going to take in order to heal and thrive from this situation. So I personally have a really hard time telling my story over and over and over again. I found that it started to define me. I saw like social workers and trauma workers get like really excited about treating me. It felt wrong. It felt wrong. So I went off all the medication. I stopped doing the like trauma focused therapies and really started this holistic approach to like allowing myself to be different forever. Like I may not ever be normal. The nightmares may be with me forever. I may be weird about elevators for the rest of my life. And that's got to be okay. I can't be like told over and over that I can be rescued from who I am now. Like who I am now is lovable and I'm capable. I can get out and do what I need to do. I can take care of my family. I can even support other women that are being trafficked locally and not locally. And that really makes me happy. And I feel like it's enough. I'm okay with forever being messed up, right? Like mentally, emotionally, physically, like scarred forever. But like this new person I am, I'm starting to embrace her and just let her be this transformative individual that I've now become.
Thanks, Amber.
Love that. Would anyone like to go next? Amber or Jennelle?
I just want to comment real quick before Kayla goes, that, you know, I love how you said that, Amber, that you don't have to be, you know, saved or healed or rescued from who you are, because who you are is perfection, and everything that you experience is why you are the woman you are today. Now, I love that you have stopped the you know, traditional types of therapies and things, because I think survivors kind of hit their head against the walls and like, I have to do EMDR, I have to do this, and it doesn't necessarily work. And so I know we're newly connected, but I want to offer, not that these services are going to heal you or change you, but I want to offer our coaching services to you. We have every kind of holistic type of healing modality available, literally known to man. And I can personally say that these have transformed my life to where I could sleep through the night now like a baby, unless my son kicks me. And I am fully embraced in all of the nightmares and things. I don't have those anymore unless I have a high level of stress. but for the most part, I don't have that. And I'd love to invite you into, you know, my personal programs too. I have one that's dance movement therapy. I have a couple, and maybe that's your flavor, maybe it's not. We have an art therapy. We have every kind of therapy you could think of. And you can just try them and see if they help, just help you feel more empowered. That's the goal, not to change you, because you're not broken. You don't need fixed, you're perfection. But we want to help make your life more abundant and more of a thriving state. So you feel like every day I wake up, and sometimes the shadows come, but the shadows you can dance with the shadows, right? Okay. You know, instead of trying to fight the shadows, just dance with them, right? Because it's kind of fun to do that. And people think you're crazy and weird anyway, so why not go for it, right? So I just want to, and I'll connect with you personally and send you all those resources. And then, yeah, I just wanted to honor you for sharing. So
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I love that you mentioned some of the services that you offer, Jennelle, because I've personally been doing what they call breakthrough calls with breakthrough artists. And I've been able to actually, so I'm the kind of survivor that's like, I want anything and anything, like everything that is gonna like help me. Like, because there is not one, what I have found is there is not one answer. There's not like go to therapy and everything will be fine. Go to yoga. There's not like one thing. It's like a million things that I have to do just to like keep myself going, like I said, on every level. Right now has been specifically a really trying time because I'm pregnant and I actually have a lot of internal damage due to malnutrition, which I spoke about last time on the last Zoom, and my body is basically fighting itself. My baby's hungry and wants to eat, but my body no longer knows how to digest food. So along with that comes a lot of mental health stuff where, you know, anger starts to come up, sadness starts to come up, and it's hard to live outside of what happened to me when every single day I literally am struggling to just do things to survive, like eating and sleeping. And it's been 2 years out. And luckily, like this week, I've kind of come to like I mean, you know, usually women kind of, you know, stop being sick around 12 weeks. I'm at 26 weeks and I've been in and out of the ER, had to switch to a high risk doctor. And I don't know if I can carry babies anymore due to what happened to me internally. So I've been faced with a lot of like, what can I do for myself at any point in time, no matter what I'm facing in my life? Because I know walking through this, there's even going to be more things that are going to come up. I also want to shout out to January. January does some really great things here in Salt Lake, and we collaborate sometimes, and I'm able to give her outreach stuff, and I know all about her outreach, and I also go on a separate outreach. It's a little bit quieter for me. I would love to go out with her sometime, but she's also doing some great work as a survivor. She inspired me to start talking more about my story, and I agree with Amber about like, I don't like living. I don't like that to define me as being like I think I Googled myself like last week, and like before it was like all of this like criminal history and all of these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if anyone's ever like looking me up for a job, like I'm not getting the job, you know? but last, like just recently I Googled my name and it's like survivor story, like Dr. Oz, like just all of these different things. And I've been reflecting on what I've been able to do even through my own healing. And for me personally, part of my healing is reaching my hand out when I can, but also having boundaries to know what my healing looks like. So for me, like setting a boundary of, you know, I can talk for an hour about something. I can talk before, you know, a couple hours before bed, but knowing myself and doing things like Jennelle has offered to me through Beyond Freedom with the breakthrough artists have coincided with my therapy, with my working out, with my, I've just found like, I grab onto everything and anything because 1% is a very small number, people. And what goes into helping us to stay out of going back and raising those odds is giving money to organizations that are actually helping survivors. Because you have people that want to give and they have no idea how to help us. Another thing that, you know, Amber had kind of touched on was, I mean, I remember when I hit treatment and they didn't even know what to do with me because they had never seen such trauma, malnutrition. I mean, they didn't even know where to start with me. I don't even think I did therapy for 30 days because I was triggered by the exit sign. I was triggered by a blanket. I was triggered by a color. And so the really cool thing about it though is that through that, like the biggest part of my healing is like doing my artwork and like telling my story. And I tell my story and I leave it there. I share it, I leave it there, but I leave it there and I say what's on my heart all the time. That's what I try to practice. I just say what's on my heart and I leave it there. And I don't have to answer to anyone anymore. Like I don't have to say, is that okay that I said that? Is that okay that I did that? Because it's what I believe and it's my voice. And I think you had mentioned, Ermin, like kind of the moment that like that happened. And for me, it was the day I left my trafficker when I told him, I'm going to write a book. I am not going to be trafficked by you anymore. I am not a prostitute. When I found my voice, I knew that no one was ever going to make me be quiet again. Mm-hmm. And part of me being on the Dr. Oz show and like doing these, like, I mean, these are terrifying things, but for me, they're my way of helping other survivors. And I have like, I'm an advocate. I've gone through advocacy school. I do case management. I work in treatment, you know, usually when I'm not pregnant, but January and I have been able to relocate someone. We work together getting people into treatment. Amber, like there's a whole network here of survivors that are just like powerhouses and we lean on each other. And we just root for each other. And I think that's like the biggest part of my healing has been being able to call up my friend Amber and be like, hey girl, I'm putting a banner up at a gym today. Like, I need you to be there because this is huge, you know? And you know, it just feels like dreams are coming true, but you got to keep a balance between feeling that like, you know, the survivorhood has defined you and then moving into the thriving part. And I think that's where we all have that kind of cross section where we're like, okay, this is what I want to do. This doesn't define me. I might have nightmares forever. I might be afraid of certain things forever. I might get a little jumpy when I see an SUV with tinted windows, you know, but you know, there's just, it's part of life. And I have good friends that I get to laugh about with it. And it might not be funny to other people, but for us, the laughter in it is what like heals us from it, you know? And so, yeah, I do therapy. I work out privately with a private trainer. I do Zoom events all the time. I do whatever I can to connect organizations and point people to where I believe that I feel like I can endorse those like Beyond Freedom, Soap to Hope, Don't Be Pimped Clothing, like all of these great like organizations that are actually helping survivors. Like this is where it's at, people. Like if you want to give money and you have money to give the money because it's going to people like me, people like Amber, people like January. Like Jennelle would offer those services to any of us because she wants us to thrive. So I wanted to make that clear that like our healing is what is keeping us out of going back. And we want to stay in the 1%. I'm glad I'm in the 1%. I want to stay there, you know, like I don't want to go back. So I want to continue with my healing, my breakthroughs, my supplements that Jennelle has sent me, and like my friends, and doing things like this, because this is all of this is a part of our healing, and we need help to heal. It takes, we were alone for so long with our traffickers, you know, brainwashed, Stockholm syndrome, and now we don't have to do that anymore. We get to come together and be like, how do we beat this? Like, let's do this, you know? And I laughed, Armand, when you said we don't have any hackers here, because we do have a hacker here, and I'm freaking proud of her, because, you know, she's doing it. You know, she's doing it. And so, yeah, that's just, you know, some days are horrible. Some days suck. Some days I don't want to do it, but you know, it's just, it's all part of it, you know? So well, that's kind of what I got going on.
I wanted to step in and say so many things that you said were just amazing. And honestly, you remind me so much of myself when I first got out and was like, I'm not going to be silenced. Don't give me a mic because you're going to regret it possibly. And that type of thing. And I would take everything and anything. Like when Tony sent me tickets, I did not, like, I took my notes. I was there every day. I did the work, you know. I didn't just take a handout and just say, oh, someone's like, I mean, and no offense to any survivors, because we all have our own process, but I give away a lot of things to survivors, and they don't do them, or they don't come to the classes, or they don't attend. But you actually do take advantage of every opportunity that we throw your way. And I love that you just have that spirit to thrive, and you're doing the work, and you're making a huge impact. The same as me. I didn't have money when I started. I didn't have money to even start Beyond Freedom. I literally was like, you know, do I pay the rent, or do I pay my attorney to form the nonprofit? And like, literally that's what I did. You know, I was like, okay, well, I can go without eating this week. Like I could do, because I was so passionate about creating this, and did yoga at my college campus for just selling, you know, $5-10 during college hours, just to try to raise money to pay the attorney the filing fees, even though the attorney for and pro bono is still about $1,000 in Uncle Sam fees. So it's like, I was doing it before, but I also loved what you said about having those boundaries and understanding, like, only you are going to take care of you. Nobody else is going to do it. And even though our pimps lied to us and said, oh, we're the only one that's going to take care of you. No, at the end of the day, we take care of ourselves. And if we don't set those clear boundaries on what we can do and what we can't do, then we're doing a disservice to the women that we want to serve. So you're just doing such amazing things, and just so proud of you in so many ways. Thank you. And so I'll just go quick. That way we can open for questions that people might have. Yeah. So similar to what you said, the defining moment, I think, was, you know, when I left my pimp for the first time. I'll never forget it. We were living in the Turnberry Towers in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're from Vegas, you know. And we had a unit where all of the girls lived. And then my pimp had his own unit. And if you were good and made your quotas, you got to spend the night with him in his unit. And I realized, like, I was just going through so much emotional hell and trauma. And I just couldn't understand that I had been lied to by him, because I really thought like I was his one and only. And it was so much of an upheaval for me. I couldn't stay there. And I remember one of the nights that nearly killed me, he had called my family, who I was estranged from, and said, you know, I'm sending Jennelle to Oklahoma. And they were like, what? Like, they didn't even know, they hadn't even talked to me in years. And they're like, what's going on? Who is this person? And in that moment, you know, he literally took me across the room, threw me across the room, and was strangling me with my family on the phone. And they could hear me gasping for breath. And so it was that next day that was so true. I was like, I can't do this. And so I left, and he banished me from Turnberry after I passed out for I don't know how long. I woke up. He had all my stuff loaded into my Range Rover that I was driving at the time, and had someone escort me out to one of the homes in the not so pleasant areas in Las Vegas that we had. And I remember I came back the next day and I said, you know what, I'm not doing this. And I knocked on the door, and I was so afraid. I was like, literally, like, fear was just like in my body. And I was like, I knew security was out there, so they could kind of hear me if something happened and I had my phone on, and I was just like, I'm not doing this and I'm leaving you, the first time I tried to leave. And I remember that was kind of the first moment when I thought, okay, wow, I actually stood up to him, kind of like you did, Kayla. And unfortunately, I did go back, and a lot of other stuff happened, but it was just like that moment in my mind. I was like, oh my God, I did this. And I remember him saying, oh, I have people out in the streets in Vegas. They're following you. They know your car. They know your license plate. You'll not go anywhere. And I was like, literally in a parking lot in Vegas, like, oh my God, like he's going to kill me. Because I really thought he had people everywhere, and who knows if he did or not. But it's a psychological mind fuck that they do. Yeah. And so when you come out, you have all this stuff that's like, you know, what is reality? Who do I really believe? Can I do something on my own? We've been brainwashed to believe that we can't be anything without them. So then when we get out, our brain still tells us like, I can only be a prostitute. There's nothing else I can do. Or I can only be a stripper, and I will not make it without them. So yeah, that was my defining moment of that I could be more and I could do more without him. And since then, you know, it's such an inspiration to see that we're able to do this type of work, because I know there are a lot of organizations out there that are doing this work. And I would love to connect, you know, with January and be able to offer services to the women that she's rescuing, because we are not a rescue organization. We are an organization that provides hope and empowerment tools to give women ways to heal and to cope so they can thrive. So, and a lot of things that we're doing right now in the community are really cool. We have a couple of TV shows and interviews and things planned with a couple of organizations, stations rather, in Europe, but we also have some local stuff coming. And we are creating, as I mentioned last time, an online platform that's basically like turnkey ready, how to go from product to person with every kind of step, the 7 F's, you know, faith, family, fitness, finances, femininity, fun, and freedom. Freedom being, you know, like empowerment through investing and through learning how to what to do with money and where to put it, and all these things that women have to deal with when we come out. So I'm really excited about that. For me personally, I think it's such an important thing to also have your own identity outside of the work that you do, right? Like you are Kayla, you're Amber, you do all this advocacy work, etc. But that's not you, you know, like you said, you do your art and things like that. And for me, I really had to work on understanding that Beyond Freedom is how I serve and how is my heart. But I also have my passions and like what I'm doing in my for-profit business, and, you know, getting on this reality show, which has like been a dream of mine to take my my crazy self on the big screen so that I can grow my business more. Because if I grow my business more, I'm going to grow my nonprofit more, and I'm going to be able to serve more. And the more people know about me and know who I am, the more I'm going to be able to help. And so things like that, and, you know, filming this talk that's coming up in December 19th, and my book that will be coming out then, and then the 2 more talks we're going to do in 2021, and just the creative flow that's been happening. I did a retreat, an intimacy retreat, just a few weeks ago in Mexico during COVID. Like I sold out a retreat with my partner, and I think that is something that just people are like canceled everything, and I was like, no, I'm going to do a retreat that brings people together close and show that I can do this. And you know, we have another one scheduled for January. So just those little things, that's like, what do they say I can't do? Oh my gosh, I'm going to absolutely do that. That's exactly what I'm going to do. And I think that that's exciting for other survivors too, because it helps them to see, oh my gosh, I can do what I want to do too, no matter what anyone else says is impossible. Essentially, the impossible becomes the possible, because that's us. You know, the stats are not in our favor. 1% get out, and a fewer percent of those that get out actually go on to live a life that's thriving, that is free of poverty, panic, and PTSD, and filled with passion, purpose, and prosperity. That's my goal and my dream for every young woman I work with. And I think for me now, it's like, the sky's the limit, right? What's your next goal, Kayla? And I would encourage you to start saying, you said what you aren't. Well, what are you, right? because
I'm writing a book and I'm putting a sample together right now. So I'm taking advantage of being pregnant, and I already have it all in a binder, and someone bought a printer, and I'm about to sample that and shoot it off to all my contacts. And so you should be hearing about a book coming out soon.
Exactly. But, and not even just your book, like your next goals are amazing, but like even who you are, like in your mind, like who you're telling yourself you are. Like I am, for me, it's like every morning, it's like, I am passion, I'm persistent, I am courage, I am love, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm prosperous. And I say it like it's in my veins. Like I say it so much, you know, and even one of Tony's incantations, like God's wealth is circulating through me. It flows to me through avalanches of abundance. All my needs, desires, and goals are met instantaneously by infinite intelligence, for I'm one with God and God is everything. And just think, 5 years ago, I was homeless here in Newport Beach, and now I live here. And it's all because of mindset and not being a product of what my story was, like moving beyond that. Because the rest of the world wants you to stay a victim. And even the nonprofits want you to stay a victim because it's better for them that way. But I want to see you do better than me. And so I keep the bar super high because I know if I'm like, my goal is to be on Forbes, right? I want to be on Forbes as the first survivor to make $1 million. Because not because I'm like, oh, it's so cool to make $1 million, but because I know that I'll inspire other survivors to follow suit, right? And with money comes a lot more giving, and I want to give. So I think we should do questions, right, Armand?
Amen. Yes. Actually, there's a question that Chris submitted to me, and this actually goes along the lines of something that I want to ask myself. So, you know, I do these events for you, Jennelle, and we talk a lot. I talk to you a lot about what you go through, but I'm not gonna lie and tell you that I'm an expert at any of this, right? I mean, I raise money for you, but I'm not gonna lie and say I'm an expert. So I love learning about you ladies and your experiences. And something that Chris wanted to know was, and I want to know, how does society at large, what can we do better at communicating with survivors and being there to help you, and not just, okay, here's $1, here's some money, okay, you know, bye, see you later. What can we actively do to not only help you but communicate with survivors?
I mean, I'll go first. This one's super easy, and then I know Kayla will jump in. I think the first thing we have to do is we have to start humanizing survivors, right? And really, like, I hate that name, survivors. That's why I'm always like thrivers. We have to humanize them and not treat them as a statistic, because unfortunately, that's what the media has done. Even Operation Underground's like, oh yeah, we've rescued 2,000 people. And then what? You never, and I'm not dogging Operation Underground at all. They're an amazing org. I'm just saying, as a whole, we see everyone, the media, everyone talks about rescuing these victims, but nothing is ever said after that. No one's like, what happened to these girls? Where are they now? How can we support them? How can we help them? Nobody cares. Not saying y'all don't care, but do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's not what sells. What sells is these grown men, Navy SEALs, went in and kicked down doors and did fake operations and rescued these children and women, and these victims now are free. What next? Nobody talks about what the ugly truth of out really looks like. Nobody talks about the things we've had to do to survive so that we don't end up back in the life. Nobody wants to hear that because that's not glamorous, right? The glamorous part is rescuing these victims. So to answer your question, the thing we have to do is we have to humanize them again and start realizing that these are women. Like Kayla had something she wanted to be. Amber had a dream and a goal, and those things were crushed. She's fighting for her child's life right now. And we're like, oh, how many more people can we rescue? How about how many more women can we rehabilitate and get them back into the community, into a thriving state, so they can live a life just like you, like all of you have, and experience the liberties that all American citizens, it's their divine right to have. We deserve that too. And how we do that is by treating us like humans again, and by believing it, supporting our work. So that's just my little thing.
Yeah, I totally, so I'm actually involved in multiple aftercare homes that are confidential shelters that I'm able to actually go in and advise for them. I'm on the board of directors for one, because I do think that I found most of my healing when I was living in a confidential shelter. And that was when, you know, you asked what can you do to help? Everything. Like, we need everything. A lot of us are running away from nothing. We're traumatized. Most of our family has blamed us for what has happened. We might not have family, and it looks different for every survivor. So my dream for my own 501c3 is that I would have the capabilities to be like, this girl needs her rent paid. Let's pay her rent. You know, this other organization has this girl and they need help. They don't have funds to get her somewhere. Give her the funds. Because I found that there is no answer to like how to help us or how to rehabilitate us. I just think that like having survivors' voices in these foundations that people are trying to help people, and in these survivors' homes, I mean, I hear about all the time, there's so many people that want to help and they just don't know how. And I've had to turn away from those people that wanted to help, and they may have started out with good intentions, but they don't necessarily have what it takes to be able to really help survivors. I think survivors are the ones that are the ones that can help other survivors, because we're the ones who know about the ins and outs of it. And so I think having, you know, like I definitely agree that it's like all these like this like rescue mentality and all of these things, but I know for myself, and I know for the other outreaches that you know, are in Salt Lake, a lot of it is about connecting with these women, and not having a rescue mentality, but having more of a like, let's meet you where you're at. And if like you still need to work tonight, what do you need? What can we give you? How can we help you be safer? Because all of those are breadcrumbs that are going to lead them back to, you know, not even rescuing, but saving themselves. Because let's face it, we're powerful women that you wouldn't expect would be able to be brainwashed or, you know, have Stockholms or any of these things, but we're powerful women. And so when we click back on, we click back on. And so I just have faith that those survivors that are willing to give of themselves, like the ones that are here and the ones that can't be here, and so many other survivors that I know in different areas of the country, just continuing to do the work and keeping boundaries for your own self so that you can continue to thrive, because it is important. Like, you know, I lean on Amber, and her thriving depends on, you know, sometimes my thriving, and sometimes my thriving is her thriving, you know, and so we're able to lean on each other in that way. And so, yeah, that's just kind of what I have to say about that.
Awesome. There was also another question, but go ahead, Amber.
Like, obviously just reiterating what you guys have already said, like the aftercare piece is huge, but I think like staying really open to all of these women are going to have a different path of healing, and what works for one woman 1 month isn't going to work the next month, and she may regress, and it looks like this really choppy path to freedom, self-freedom, but supporting them in not always feeling great, like not always doing great, like allowing them the trauma responses that are going to come. Don't try to like fix them all the time. Like, this is a growth. This is something that each girl is going to need to do on their own, spiritually, emotionally, physically. It's going to look different for everyone, and being flexible in that and supporting them through whatever works for them.
Yeah, that's super. There's no one size suits all for healing. Like, healing is not a project that can be completed on a certain date. It's a process, and for every young woman, it's different. I think this is a great question we should take before we close. To the survivors, when you experience trauma, a flashback, anxiety, feel triggered. What is it that you do in order to not get sucked back into the pain of your past? And that was from Dr. Keith. Thank you for asking, Dr. Keith. Yeah, so for me, I'm sure it'll be different for all of us. But for me, I've, spent the last almost 6 years since I've been free, doing so much work, literally lived on an island out of a suitcase for a year and did nothing but heal, and got back into my body. So for me, I'm very kinesthetic. So everything I do revolves around getting back into my body. And oftentimes when there's a PTSD or trauma or trigger, it's because we're not in our body, right? We've left, we've escaped, and our body, our brain has trained us to do that as a survival mechanism, so that when we were going through all those experiences, that we could make it through. It's called like disassociation. So oftentimes when we get in those places, I do several things. One is I, first of all, sometimes will phone a friend just to get support, because if I call someone and I'm like, hey, I was in Costco and I had a PTSD attack, which has happened to me before, not gonna lie. I've had to call my tech coach and I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm hoping you could perhaps talk me out of this. And normally they do. And so that would be one thing. And then once I go through it, and I haven't had a crazy experience in a while, but I was often waking up in the middle of the night feeling like I was going to die, and I couldn't move my extremities, and I couldn't call 911 because nothing worked, and my heart was racing through my chest, and my son was a few feet away from me in the bed. And that's the scariest feeling that I've to have. And when I do that, I would eventually, I have a number saved that I passed on to all the girls, this 24-hour hotline, and they will help just talk you through things. And so I could literally just hit that instead of having to dial. But then when I would come out of it, the next day, I wouldn't try to analyze, how did this happen? What happened? I wonder why. I would just say, you know what? It fucking happened. And that's okay. And then I take luscious, opulent self-care, get a massage, sit in the bath, do something I love. Maybe it's zoning out and watching Netflix, which I never do. Maybe it's getting my nails done. Maybe it's just turning off every device and just being in my body and moving. So I find some kind of healing modality that works for me. Maybe it's a meditation or yoga, but I don't try to diagnose it. I don't try to analyze it. I just say it is, and that's perfection. And I realize that my pain is actually my greatest power and platform, because I can relate to other women. And so I say, oh, that's interesting. That just happened. Now I can be more powerful in helping serve others.
Yeah. Love that. Would anyone else can't even speak. Would anyone else like to go? That was a mic drop. I can't even speak after you, Jennelle.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the question from Dr. Keith to the survivors when you do experience trauma. So I want to talk about when you do experience trauma, flashback, anxiety, feelings triggered. I literally feel triggered all day long. It could be a piece of paper that has a hotel, the little notepads that I used to write my dates on. It could be looking through the peephole of my door. It could be a church member coming over to my house a little late at night and I didn't know they were coming over. I'm triggered pretty much still throughout the day. And I've had to, the same with what you said, Jennelle, like it fucking happened. Like I had a trauma response. I'm so, like, they used to call me trigger in treatment because I was triggered by everything. I'm like, listen, your shirt's bothering me. It's got the adversary on it. I'm gonna need you to take it off, And so, and I've just learned to move through those triggers, because what I realized is that the more I move through those triggers, the more I face kind of my fears in having those triggers, instead of like living with like trying to not be triggered. The more I move through them, the more I can talk about them, the more I can heal from them, the more I can take it to therapy. And so to the win part of the question, it's not a win, it's an if. we get triggered, and I know I don't know one survivor that doesn't get triggered by random. It could be a song. It could be, I mean, I've done EMDR around songs before because I was brainwashed by my pimp from songs, you know? So there's so many things, and it's just like, I just love what Jennelle said, you know, like it happened. Like, what do I do now? How do I take care of myself now? I take a bath. I call a friend. I have so many tools, you know, that I use. I have to use traditional medicines to deal with my post-traumatic stress disorder. I've also had the blessing of being able to get treatments for PTSD, and I'm hoping that I can raise enough money to get the other two that I need. But I love what Jennelle said. Just like, fuck it, like it happened. Like, let's just move on, and like, what's next? You know, I'm stronger for it. Like, what else can I do with it? How can I help someone else get through what they, you know, need to go through? So that's what I have to say about triggers and anxiety. That is real. It's the realest thing that I deal with. It's tied into my physical stuff. It affects every day of my life, and it may affect every day moving forward, but it has gotten easier, and there are resources that Jennelle has that has specifically helped me when I have been in trauma responses. So
obviously trauma responses are a huge thing. They happen all the time. They change, they evolve, they go away, they come back. So I deal with that shit all the time. But there is a question in here that I was hoping that we could answer about the effect of the pandemic on human trafficking, and is it harder for boys to seek help? And that's a really, really great question, because what we're seeing on the ground at Soap to Hope is it's this whole pandemic is tied into police reform, and the violence is much higher. The weirdos are coming out. They're highly agitated because they've been cooped up, and that finding women is becoming harder. But we're seeing a huge increase of sex trafficking violent episodes in downtown Salt Lake City. And with our current police reform, they're not responding to these situations in high crime areas, is what they're calling it. So they're only assisting in EMT and fire dispatch. But I also think that it is extremely harder for men and boys to speak out about what's happening to them. And I just, my heart goes out to them. I feel like women and girls are supported much more. People can empathize with them. You know, the abuse of women has been going around for thousands of years, right? Like, I think men suffer in silence, and that's heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, it's just one of the many things that we have our work cut out for us. And I think the thing that we can do, I know we'll close with this, Armand, and then any last words you have, is like, the thing we can do is not always focus on the problems, because you focus on the problem, you will get more problems. But what we have to focus on is the solution. And solutions are our main objective at Beyond Freedom. It's not that we live in La La Land or in a bubble. Trust me, I know what's going on. But if I focus on all the women that are being trafficked, on all the injustices in the world, on all the boys that aren't being served, I'm gonna not be able to get out of bed so well. So I focus on the women like Kayla and Amber, who are doing amazing things in the world, who've come so far in their healing, who continue to heal, who continue to use resources that we offer, and to continue to help other victims do the same. So for us, we are focused on solution. We are a solution-based nonprofit. We want to find more. We want to test them out. We want to try it. And we want to continue to empower Kayla to be her best version of her, and for Amber to be her best version of herself, so that they truly can live the outstanding life that they deserve.
There you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Amber Lee, Jennelle Gordon, and Kayla Bettles.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Ramon, for providing this platform.
Of course. Once again, please check out beyondfreedominternational.org/donate to give directly to Beyond Freedom, but also check out Soap to Hope, SOAP2 HOPE. And also you can find Beyond Freedom on Instagram at Beyond Freedom OC. Don't forget the OC at the end because Jennelle's based in OC. So Beyond Freedom OC. Everyone, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we look forward to doing this again. Once again, this is a series of events, not just one or two. We will continue to do this. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Bye everyone.